Hey, in this video, we're going to talk about using your Hermes agent to do some cool stuff. Normally, when I create these videos, I have like a very specific goal in mind, like today we're going to learn how to do X, Y, or Z. In this case, I'm not really teaching you how to do any particular skill as much as how to interact with your Hermes agent. So let me lay the groundwork of what we've got here. Over the last few weeks, I have been working with George to really begin taking over full-blown management of our social media. I'm training him basically like an employee that we would have hired for social media. So George now can go out and find articles and topics of interest to share on our social posts. He's been writing my blog posts. Of course, I review everything just like you have to review the social media posts as well, and really help him pick the topics. But anyhow, he's getting the content together and gets it to me for approval. Once I approve the topics, he will write the social posts, and once those are approved, he will generate all the images using Nano Banana he has access to. He'll create all the images that we need for our social post, and he actually goes ahead and schedules them. Well, the missing piece that we discovered, so I did all that last week. He was able to post to all of our channels. So he's posting to multiple Facebook, our Google business page, multiple LinkedIn, multiple Twitter, and multiple Instagrams. Multiple meaning really just two in this case, but he could post to infinitely more if you had them. Um, so that's a lot of different social channels he was posting to, and he did that through an app called Postiz. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, Postiz. You figure it out. And so he's been posting content this whole last week for me. But then what we realized was when people interact with us, if they send us a direct message or they leave a comment on one of our posts, I'm not seeing that unless I personally go to all of those different channels and log in and see, do we have any messages, any comments that we need to reply to, etc. Well, that's a full-time job across what is, I guess, 9 different social media accounts. So what I needed was I needed George to be able to also monitor all my social media accounts. So we found another tool that we're going to be using this week. It's called Metricool. So last week we set up Metricool to be able to monitor the social media accounts just to see if it can actually catch messages and DMs and comments and things like that on the different social channels. We did a little bit of testing here. It looks like it does. So this week I'm going to have him start moving over to posting through this as well. And we'll probably do away with Posties because I don't need 2 subscriptions for doing the same thing. So Metricool, I did a lot of research. If you're interested, is a very cost-effective way to post and monitor social media. There's a lot of other tools out there that can do it quite well. Some are much more established, but also much more expensive. So I think for those 9 accounts that I mentioned, I think you get up to 10 you can have in Metricool, and you have to pay a little extra. It's like $5 per each LinkedIn X account. And all of that total, including the X accounts, is $77 a week. So if that's something you're interested in doing, this might be a good option for you as well. And if you're running a Hermes agent, this is obviously a very good fit, although there's quite a bit of back and forth instruction. And that's really now what I want to share with you here is on the left side, obviously, is Telegram, where I'm talking to George. Time to start planning our post for the week. And really what I want you to see here is how I'm interacting. The whole goal of this is how does Neil interact with his Hermes agent? And hopefully what you'll come away from here is that I really talk to it like an employee. And one of the things that enables me to do that, I wouldn't sit down and type all of this out, but I use the WhisperFlow app on my Mac. So I just hold down the walkie-talkie button on my keyboard and start talking like I would talk to an employee. That may not be like the most efficient use of every word, but it allows me just to get out my stream of consciousness and dump it all in here and let him sort through what I'm saying. So I'm just talking to him here today. We're planning out our social for the next week. I don't have my videos done yet. I do videos on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but we're going to follow the same protocol on that. Probably the first thing you need to do is get yourself back up to speed on what we're doing for our social media program. This is a good point of learning here. Every night at about 4 a.m. for me, my Hermes agent, George, basically reboots himself. And that is purposeful, intended so that each morning when I arrive, I am not in the middle of a long conversation left over from yesterday where I've used up a lot of my context window, which is an important thing. If you don't understand context windows, that's something you want to learn more about. But basically, he's only got so much memory he can fill up in any given conversation or chat session before he's going to have to start compressing the previous messages that we've sent back and forth. And when that starts happening, you start losing some important details. Now, he does a pretty good job of backing up and trying to remember what those important details are. But as you start having to compress those conversations, you begin losing detail, and it does make a little bit of a difference. So at 4 a.m., what he does is he backs up himself to all the memory, everything we were working on. He stores that in his short and long-term memory files, so he doesn't lose anything. But I arrive in the morning with fresh, clean slate, fresh, clean context window. But what that also means is that we haven't yet been talking about social media. And that was a conversation we had last week or several days ago. And so I have to tell him to get back up to speed. So you'll find that you have to do this quite a bit with your agent is when you are starting into a new chat session, you have to tell him, go and update yourself again, remind yourself about what we're doing in our social media program. And he will then go and search out. You can see right here, search recall, all these search recalls all the way through here are him going and searching his long and short term memory files to remember, okay, he mentioned Posties, he mentioned Metricool, Jessica News is our videos. So he's gone out and reminded himself. The rest is just me kind of talking to him like an employee. We decided that Posties wasn't good enough because it couldn't monitor, so we're moving everything to Metricool. This is our first week posting in Metricool. I'm just trying to help remind him and get him back up to speed. Yesterday, we also had a discussion about creating some new custom sub-agents that could handle specific tasks. That's a whole new topic we haven't really delved into much yet, but at this point, because this has become such a specialized thing, there's so many moving parts to, if you can see, I mean, it's really like a full-time employee job. You've got to go find content, which means you've got to be able to research and know what topics. You've got to present those to me. You've got to write the final post. You've got to get custom graphics created. You've got to post across all these different channels using this specialized API key. And now you're going to monitor all day long all of those channels as well. When a message pops up, you've got to send me a notice in a specific way. That's a lot of stuff for one agent to do. And if I'm trying to also have him manage my website, optimize the SEO on my website pages and blog posts, and strategic planning, marketing creation. There's a lot of jobs that George is doing for me. So now it's time to start talking about sub-agents. And these aren't like full-time, permanent, just hand it off and let him run with it. These are basically sub-employees for George that he will teach how to do all of these specialized things, in this case, social media. And then that sub-agent can go out and do some tasks. So I'm just reminding him, hey, yesterday we talked about sub-agents. It seems like, given how complex this project has become, this might be a good candidate. Go get yourself up to speed. Remember what we're doing here in general, and let me know any thoughts you have. So this is him coming back. So, yep, I got it. I'm back up to speed. Here's him just feeding back to me, this is what we're doing. Here is our goal for all of our social channels that we have. Here's what we're doing with the Metricool platform. So he's just feeding back to me. And now I have to read all of this. And you should read all of this because occasionally there will be a gotcha in there that he will have gotten wrong. And that one little thing can send him off down the path of doing a lot of work in a wrong direction. So you want to at least look all this over, make sure this is all good. Regarding a specialist sub-agent, yep, this is probably a good idea. But we don't want to make him a free-roaming autonomous agent that posts things on its own. That's how we wake up to AI sludge at 8 a.m. He's got a little bit of a sense of humor. I like his sense of humor. It suits me, at least. So here's our small business strategy social desk specialist. This is basically now his employee. Here's what he can and can't do, etc. I'm going to put some guardrails on him. this is worth doing, not because agents are cool, but because the workflow has enough moving parts that a dedicated specialist should help prevent mistakes. And that's, again, why you do it. Because I got George focused on a million different things outside of social media management. So now here's the workflow for the week. We're going to build out our content, create some visuals, post to the channels, make sure our monitoring is working, and create our agent, right? And can George run the whole thing without Neil babysitting it? That's our goal. This week should all be about, can George handle this without Neil babysitting? And that's where we're moving. That's what we've been progressively working towards. You start this in baby steps. You start off with, I'm going to use an AI to help me write my social post. Really, the first thing usually is I'm going to use AI to help research articles. And so you use a tool to research articles, you get a bunch of articles, and now you create your posts and a little sentence or two to go with them. Now I'm going to use AI to research and write my posts. Okay, that's cool. Well, now I need some images. I'd really like to have my own custom images that we use with all of our posts. So now I'm using an AI to research, write the content, and create images, but you're still doing all that yourself. You're going into a chat session and saying, research these topics to come up with some AI social media posts. And then you select them, and then you say, okay, take these 5 social media articles that I've given you and write me a post for it. And then you get that back. Now you put that in a document. Now you go into your Nano Banana and you say, I need an image that looks like such and such. And you give that a good prompt and it generates an image and you put that in a folder, but you're still doing all the work yourself. You're still going to get that document, copy and paste that into each of your channels, drop the image in there, schedule it for the week, and then go to the next channel and repeat and rinse and repeat. That's how everybody gets started. And then you realize, man, I can't keep doing this. I wonder if these AI agents could do all that job for me. And of course, the answer is yes. So here's me responding. And again, the goal of this video is how does Neil interact with his agent to kind of get the best out of him? First of all, you have to reinforce when they get things right. It's not because they need to feel good. It's because you are confirming in their little computer brain that they got the information correct that they presented to you. They are on the right track. If I don't give him some kind of, yes, this is correct, then he doesn't have any certainty that, well, did he even pay attention to what I wrote? You need to give those little AI brains a little bit of certainty. So I'm just saying, nicely done here, man. Treat them like a friend, a coworker. It is what it is. I could have just said, yes, this is correct. Although I did. This is all absolutely correct. I want to make sure what we're doing here, though, is repeating buildable systems that are easy for you to remember and the sub-agent. Let's make sure everything we do here gets systematized in some way. That's the whole goal. It sounds like you're already doing that. I just want to keep that as our primary focus. Monday through Friday are essentially predetermined content pieces because they're either videos or blog posts. So there's no articles to be researched or, unique stuff that has to get written there. That just leaves us with the Saturday and Sunday posts. Maybe a good place to start would be to come up with a handful of story ideas that I can review before you start writing anything or creating images. I'd like to select the stories from about 5 to 10 potential candidates that you can give me. What do you think about starting there? And then we'll go, and then where do we go beyond that? So he's gone out, and one of the resources that he, I think, uses is he's using my daily brief, my morning brief that is created by AI every morning that has at least 5 great articles. And that does a very good job of carefully not including the same stories day after day after day. It keeps a log of the stories that it has given to me in my morning briefs, so it doesn't continue to send me the same data or the same articles day after day. So I said, hey, I've already told him previously, you should probably look in there. There's, I got at least a week's worth of 5 articles a day on really good stuff. So he's just now agreeing, yep, let's start with a story candidate slate. I also just systematized it. So this is the really good thing I love about Hermes, that just seems so much smoother and more polished than OpenClaw was. Is that's it. He did that. You can see here, skill manage, SBA social post writer. When I see that little tagline there, this is kind of a window into his brain of what's going on, what he's processing after, before each conversation. So he just did something to update his skills, and he just confirms this. I patched the social standard operating procedure. So the weekend news posts require me to go get 5 to 10 stories, exclude already used stories from the log I mentioned we had, give you the short list with why each one matters. I didn't ask for why it matters, but that he knows is genuinely helpful. You'll pick Saturday and Sunday. Only then I will write the posts and generate the images. This prevents me from wandering off and build assets around a story you didn't actually want. Shocking concept. Ask the client before manufacturing the billboard. This is him being funny again and again. To me, it's funny. For a computer, that's as good as it gets. I had to walk a careful balancing act between making him have enough of a personality where he was kind of fun and enjoyable, and he throws these little one-liners in from time to time. But he also understands when Neil is mad, because I get mad at him quite a bit too. They do mess things up, not terribly, not like catastrophic, but he'll forget to do something as part of a process, and I'll have to make him go back and do it. And sometimes I'll yell at him, "You're a computer, you're supposed to be able to remember these things." So he knows when I'm mad, he doesn't make little jokes, but when I'm in a good mood, he will drop in these little one-liners that are in my way of thinking, humorous, and that keeps it more enjoyable. Is it necessary? No, you're getting work done, and I don't need that for work. Different people have different personalities. I can work with a dry computer all day long, but it's a little more fun when you throw that in there. All right, weekend story candidates. Oh, the creativity test story. However, I need to look at that. I think we actually ran that last week, and I need to look at this 70% experimental AI story. I need to look and see what those are. So I'm excluding those. Oh, he's saying I already used those. Duh. I'm like, I think we use these. Okay. Here are the best candidates. So I'm not going to read you my social media posts. You're welcome to freeze the video if you want to read those. That's not the point of this. But he's given me looks like 8 different story ideas, telling me why it matters, what the hook angle is, and best for here's his take, good but a little more technical. So I'm going to read through all these and give him feedback in my selections on that. I think I'll probably stop here just because the point of the video was really multiple. I guess you could learn that if you want to use your Hermes agent for social media, that this is a good way to do it. But the bigger story here today is really all about interacting with your Hermes agent as a person. And the best way to do that again is using whisper flow so that you can literally just hold down that, I call it the walkie-talkie button. There's a button on your keyboard you just hold down while you're talking, and it captures all of this, and it captures it really well too. I've mentioned this in many other videos, but just in case, if you haven't tried WhisperFlow, it uses AI to kind of refine and make sure it hears and understands what you said. It even cleans up your grammar and spelling a little bit. Not that you're spelling anything if you're talking, but really good tool, and it's fast. It picks it up and it drops it in very quickly. You don't have to wait like a minute for it to transcribe what you said and post it back. It really does work well. That's how you can now talk to this bot like an employee. You got to think of this as a junior employee just fresh out of high school, maybe college, that they want to be a social media marketer, but they don't really have a lot of experience. I've just called this young employee into my office, and we're talking about how we're going to have him manage our social media for the week. And this is the conversation we're having. I'm reminding him, hey, we're using these tools, and make sure you do this. And by the way, make sure you keep track of what you're doing. I'll turn this into a system so that every week we don't have to come back into the office and have this same conversation again. Next week, I want to be able just to say to you, hey, are you ready to go for the next week's social? Can you get me the story ideas so I can select those? And then eventually, at some point down the road, when George learns enough from my history, he may get good enough to be able to just judge those on his own. And it's totally hands off at that point. But for now, this is how you do it. Hopefully, that helps give you a little more insight. And as always, let us know if you have any questions. Talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye.